We have a week and a half till Rosh Hashanah. And like we said last time, Chazal tell us that the month of Elul is Ani l'doidi v'doidi li. Sounds like a love story. I love him, he loves me. I'm for him, I'm for my lover's for me. What's this love story? Elul is scary. Elul is scary. Amar of Kursbadoy, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah tells us, Shleisha Svarim Nivtachim b'Rosh Hashanah. Echad shel Rishoyim Gemurim, Echad shel Tzadikim Gemurim, Echad shel Beinanim, Tzadikim Gemurim, Nechtavim and Nechtavim. Tzadikim Gemurim, so they're written down and they're sealed on Rosh Hashanah L'chaim. Rishoyim Gemurim, they're written down and sealed on Rosh Hashanah L'misa. And Beinanim, Taluyim V'yoimdim. Once Rosh Hashanah hits for 10 days, we're left hanging. What does it mean, left hanging? Tuliyim ba'imdim. So, my mashgiach, Rav Zedel Epstein, Zatzal, so he used to say it was like a Civil War movie. You know, you take the guy, you put him up, you know, on the bama there, and they put the noose around his neck, and they put him on a stool, and they're waiting to kick the stool out. He's tuluyim ba'imdim. That's what it's going to be after Rosh Hashanah. Is it over? No. Until Yom Kippur, Zachu, they have 10 days. If there's Zachu, they do tshuva, Nichtavim l'chaim, so they take them down. Lo Zachu, Nichtavim l'misa, they kick the stool out. Beinanim, I mean, like, what are, we're not Rishoyim. Tzadikim, I don't think we are. I don't know, I mean, maybe you are, but... Obviously. Maybe, right? Maybe, but I'm not a halavai, I'm a Beinani, you know? And it's scary. If you're zocha, if you do tshuva, you know? If you think about it. The Chaim Friedlander, Zatzal, the Mashgiach Aponovich, she's got a parish on Derech Hashem, the Sefer Derech Hashem. So he says, what's the meaning of Rosh Hashanah? So Derech Hashem says, on Yom HaKadosh Hazeh, on Rosh Hashanah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Dan, he dons the whole world, like it says in Unisana Toikif. The whole world. How many are going to be born? How many are going to die? What's going to happen to everybody? Who's going to have an economic catastrophe? Who's going to make $1 million? Who's going to die in an earthquake? Who's going to die in a fire? Car crashes, illnesses, Shem Yerachem, heart attacks, strokes. It's all when did it happen? It was all in Rosh Hashanah. It was written down. What's going to happen? Everybody. For all 8-9 billion people. How, when, what, where? So Kodesh Dan is Kol Ha'olam. The Goyim think, they don't know about Rosh Hashanah. They don't know about, maybe it's better they don't know about Rosh Hashanah. You know, they think it's January 1st. No, everybody is Rosh Hashanah. And Kodesh Baruch Hu is Mechadish, the Metzias, Bebechinas Asiva V'Chodesh. We have a new cycle. You know, they have these books, Jewish cycle, the Jewish life cycle, the Jewish yearly cycle. The festival, it's a life cycle. Every year is a new cycle. And since this is the day Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world, so now he dons the world. This is not just a din of crimes. I created you. I brought you into the world. I remember when I was, green behind my ears and, I came to Yerushalayim, I was, a greenhorn, and I was very excited, being in yeshiva. And then an old friend of the family, he must have been, I was in my early 20s and he was probably in the 70s. So he comes over to the house, like to visit, finally came to Yerushalayim to visit. And we're sitting over a cup of tea. And I said, Harry, let me ask you a question. I had chutzpah in those days. So I said, Harry, why were you created? And he sat there and he says, you know, Lezer, I never thought about it. He never thought. Have you ever thought about it? Why were you created? Everybody was created with a purpose. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the gross shita is every blade of grass. Everything has a purpose. Every cow, every dog, every bird, every fish, every person, of course. Kol sheken. Every person has a certain purpose, a plan, a part of the plan. And he's given a tafkid, he's given a job. When he's born, he's given a job to do. Comes Rosh Hashanah, so they take stock. You know, what do? You take stock, you know, you're a businessman, you got your employees, or a guy who's a general in the army, he's got his soldiers. So comes once a year, you take stock. How is that sergeant doing? How is that stock boy doing? I got a salesman, is he living up to his job? Do I have to demote him or promote him? You know, is he making sales or losing money? So you take stock. So Kadosh Baruch Hu takes stock of his whole world, of everybody. How are you doing? How do you fit into my world? What did you do? It's not just an einish on what you did last year. It's taking stock on what job are you going to get this coming year. That's what this year, it's scary. Kadosh Baruch Hu decides what kelim he's going to give us.
Why is it scary? It's all for the good, no?
Everything's for the good, but still, I mean, you know, you look around, you get to my age, you look around, and, you know, I mean, during COVID, I mean, like, not just people who died of COVID. COVID was bad enough. I mean, they died of suffocation. Imagine, it just hit. It just hit. People died of suffocation, or people died in the hospital of starvation because they refused to feed them. And I know a lot of people. All of a sudden, people are dropping. You know, neighbors, younger than me, and they were dropping like flies. Heart attacks, strokes. I won't go into what caused it, but all of a sudden, people die of heart. I look in my building. How many people are left? Where's Chanan Bloom? Huh? Where's Pesach Ackerman? Right? And I'm looking at all the people and you know and the people they asked Mrs. Friedman.
But who says it's bad though?
Huh?
Why is it bad? Why should we be afraid of that?
You don't want to be painful.
Because you're a human being.
You're a human being, and Kadosh Baruch Hu created fear. The most fearful.
People suffer because
What's wrong,
of fear. There's children that suffer about it. It's not bad for whoever left. It's bad for whoever's here. Not
That's
for
a different shmooze. But Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us human feelings, and human feelings are you. Chas v'sholom, I won't say you. A person goes to the doctor and says, Reb Moshe, you know, I mean, I see something there. I'm not so sure. I want you to go for some tests and take some X-rays and CTs, and then you know you go through the whole rigmarole, and it takes weeks, whatever. And you can finally get it back. And then I had a friend of mine, my chavrusa. He had a pain in his back. He fell down. He lost his balance and he fell down and he got a pain in his back and it didn't go away for a week. So he went to the doctor, an orthopedist, and what am I going to do? You know, I'm having trouble walking straight because, you know, there's something wrong with my back, you know, my spine. So he went for CTs and it came back. He's on chemo now. I mean, you go for CTs, they find something else. And he's not talking about it, you know. He's not talking about it, but imagine, you know, the doctor says it's frightening.
Everyone's afraid of something.
Yeah, it's frightening, especially.
I just.
All right, that's a different schmooze, not now.
Fine.
That's a different shmooze. Of course, called the Ovid Rachman L'tav Ovid. That's a different shmooze, but a normal human reaction.
You should be scared of Rosh Hashanah. That's what you're saying.
The Brisker Rav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Rav Chaim Friedlander quotes the Zohar, and it says, why does the HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a Rosh Hashanah scene upstairs? There are courts, there's Sanhedrios, it's a court system, Batei Dinim. There are all sorts of levels of Batei Dinim, billions of Batei Dinim, all over the place. And they have Malachim who are defending Malachim, and you have prosecuting Malachim. So it's a whole court case, and they have Edom, they have Edom and they have proof, and they have spy cameras. I mean, the Kodesh Baruch Hu did us a favor. In our generation, it was hard for us to understand, but you can't go anywhere without a security camera following you. That is, if you think about that, you are being watched. Big Brother is watching you. It's if you remember that book, Big Brother is watching you. So, yeah. So, and we see it all. Anytime there's a crime, the police immediately go to all the security cameras and they can find the guy. They got the whole thing is why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu create it like that? Kodesh Baruch Hu knows all of this. Why does he need a court system? Why does he need malachim on this side, malachim on that side? Whether the guy's got good schusim, schuyot, he's got chiyuvim. What does he need? He knows. Like that. HaMeibin will call my same. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything. No. That we should be afraid, because this is what we're used to. We're used to a court system. We're used to being afraid of the knock on the door from the police. Right? We're not afraid of the knock on the door from the police.
Can you show us the camera for a second? Can you show us the camera?
Security picture.
Big Brother's there, right up there.
Leman Yirul Milfonecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be afraid. Otherwise, you're not going to do anything. Fear is a fantastic motivator. It's a fantastic motivator. If you don't have fear, you go your merry way. That's the problem. Americans today, religion is a bunch of bunk. It's all superstition. Doesn't mean anything. And they go the merry way, and they're doing. You can't stop them because nothing's wrong. They're not afraid.
A very smart way of using fear as motivator is a good thing. But usually, fear it makes you not freeze.
Some people freeze, and some people take action.
Okay, so that's why
depends on your personality.
we have to have shiurim how to. That's why on Rosh Hashanah. That's why in Rosh Hashanah we had last time 2 weeks ago we had the shir on that from the Brisker Rav. So this is on one hand we're afraid. The Malachim wanted to sing Shira. Kodesh Baruch Hu says the Sifrei Chaim and the Sifrei Mesim are open in front of me, and you're now going to sing Shira. It's frightening. And what do? We sit down. We don't say Hallel. We're not allowed to say Hallel, but we have a beautiful Yom Tov meal. We get dressed up, go to the mikveh, right? Have all the simonim. And we're so happy. Oh, Yehi Ratzon, with Rimonim, Yarbas Chuyoseinu, and then we have carrots and raisins, carrots and celery, raisin celery, right? Raisin celery, raisins and celery. We have all the different. It's a new one. Yeah, it's an old. It's an old. No. Anyway, so you have all the. Yeah. So you have all. So you have all this. On one hand, you're supposed to be afraid. On the other hand, we are betuach. That's what Torah says. We are betuach, and it's going to fit in if you give me a chance. It's going to fit in. We're betuach in a Kodesh Baruch Hu that He's going to be mitzi ardin l'toiva. So yes, you have to know the balance, but fear is a fantastic motivator. You have to know how to use it, not get frozen. If you have betachin, That's the part we had 2 weeks ago. If you have betochen, fear will not paralyze you. And part of the problem, I'm going to run out of time. A big part of the problem is that we live in a land of plenty. We live in a land of plenty. In California, in San Francisco, the whole city is taken over by homeless. And in Los Angeles, there are places you can't go. In New York City, they're trying to put them into they get them out of the subway stations and put them into hotels and put them here. They got homeless all over the place. It's homeless. There's one place that should have thousands of homeless people, and you won't find one. Lakewood, New Jersey. All the younger light. I mean, how much? They should be homeless. They shouldn't be able to afford the prices. They don't have enough money. How are they surviving? There's no homeless there. Somehow or other, Kodesh Baruch Hu is looking after his people, and they're buying homes in Jacksonville and all the places there. They got money from. Kodesh Baruch Hu is taking care of. We live in affluent times. So I heard from a fellow whose father was a Rav in New York in the 1930s. In 1930s, he was a Rav, the time of the Great Depression. And he says, whenever they would, Rosh Chodesh benching, right? To get right, Rosh Chodesh, so-and-so, Habo Aleinu, and he would hear wailing from the women's section. When they talked about Parnasa Toiva, and they would wail, because they didn't have Parnasa Tova. They lived from hand to mouth, day to day, and they went to sleep hungry. And they didn't know and they didn't have jobs. If you don't come back on Saturday, don't come back on Monday. That's how it was. You remember those? You don't remember those days, but you've heard the stories. And it was terrible. And they didn't know how they're going to pay the rent. And if you don't pay the rent, it's not like today. In Eretz Yisrael, there's I don't know, maybe in New York also, they have certain rental laws, rental policies, and you're not allowed to throw somebody out so fast. In those days, you don't pay the rent, and they didn't have anywhere to go. There was no gemach, no one to bail them out, because everybody was in this. You don't pay the rent. They came in, all your furniture, your kids, you, on the street, and that's where you're going to sleep tonight, on the street, because there's no one to bail you out until you get some money. That's what it used to be.
That's scary. No.
It's scary. We're very lackadaisical. I'll tell you what Naftali Trupp said. We're going to get to Slichas this Motzi Shabbos. It says, we're like paupers and indigents, poor people. We're banging on your door. Shem, please help. So a big industrialist came to Naftali. Naftali Trupp was a Rosh Hashiva in Radin. He was the Chafetz Chaim. He was the Rosh Hashiva of the Chafetz Chaim's yeshiva. Big Talmud Chacham. They have the Granat. Naftali Trupp. The Granat is a very lumdish sefer. It says, I'm a wealthy industrialist. I have a big factory. I have 700 men working for me. Come on, Rabbi. I'm poor. I'm wealthy. I have money in the bank. How can
American region. Yeah. He doesn't understand the context.
Right. Right. So Rav Naftali, so he says, you're making a mistake. You think because you had a good Rosh Hashanah last year, so it's going to continue. You got a chazaka, 3 times the chazaka, 3 years in a row, so I got a chazaka, It doesn't work like that. Every year, Kadosh Baruch Hu judges anew. What did you do as a big industrialist? What did you do with 700 men in your employ? How was your year? Are you Roy to continue this another year? Maybe there'll be a stock market crash. Remember, was it 1981? When was it?
2008.
2008. Remember 2008? 2008. And my brother lost everything. It was amazing. How many people? How many people? The corona. Look at the corona. People had flourishing businesses. All of a sudden, come the countries. They closed everything down. Everything got closed. I want to open up. I got to make business. Closed down. If you open up, the police come and you get heavy fines. You can't do anything. People lost their businesses because of the corona. There was nothing wrong. We weren't doing anything wrong in business-wise. Corona came and they had to shut down. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. Imagine the guy in Tel Aviv. You know, he had a beautiful store. All of a sudden, these Africans come and they rioted on Saturday night. They had a big riot and a civil war going on. And what did he do? He didn't do anything wrong, but they destroyed his whole store. They smashed it to smithereens because they just wanted to destroy it because they're Africans. Yeah. He didn't do anything. I hope he's got. I hope he's got insurance. I don't know, but even if he's got insurance, but you know. So you don't know. So what do we do? I'll tell you about fear. I'll tell you about fear. He brings a Maisa with here it is, the Maisa with the stipler. Remember the stipler? Rav Chaim's father. Rav Chaim's father, Gor. So he was a bigger masman than Rav Chaim. He used to sit there in his little room. I mean, like he had what did he have? He didn't have an office. He had his living room, whatever it was, you know, with his broken down furniture. And he was sitting and learning, and he had a line of people, just like Reb Chaim. He had a whole line of people waiting to get in, one after the other. He barely looked up. He was hard of hearing. He had to write a note. He looked at the note and gave them the proper bracha. He gave answers. He actually gave answers. He looked up for a second and then he said whatever he had to say. He gave answers. He was the Paisik of Gans Klai Yisrael, the Stipler Rov. One day, a man walks into the Stipler's apartment. People are waiting in line, and he walks in. And unlike himself, he looked up. And he stared at the man. And he stood up and he says, Russia! Get back from door! Get out of here! Russia! Get out of here, Russia! The man turned white. He turned white. He ran out. And everybody went, what happened? Who is this? What is this? So one of his Talmidim, he waited a couple of hours and he came to the Rebbe, like, Rebbe, Meichel me, that man that you yelled at, I mean, like, you called him a Russia. I don't think he's such a Russia. After that incident with him, he got into a car with a whole bunch of people, and they had a traffic accident, a very severe traffic accident, and everybody was killed except for him. He was saved. He was the only one who survived. Now, a Russia would not have survived that traffic accident. So maybe Rebbe, he wasn't such a Russia. So the Stipler says, you don't understand. When he walked in, the Malach HaMovis walked in with him. Here it is, Stipler. So the Malach HaMovis walked in with him. The only way I could save him was to embarrass him in public. Person who's embarrassed in public is as if he died. So I did him the biggest favor. If I didn't humiliate him, he would have died in that traffic accident with his friends.
I wonder who that guy is.
But we understand these things. Steipler understood these things. Steipler understands these things. So what do we do? What's the Eitzah? So Reb Chaim Friedland, the Ramchal, the Derech Hashem is written by the Ramchal. He was a big makubal. He was a very, very big makubal, if you know the Ramchal. He's the author of the Mesilas Yesharim, but most of his forum are written on Kabbalah, and he wrote the Sefer Derech Hashem. And he says, he gives us two eitzes. There are two eitzes I want to mention. Fantastic eitzes. These are Gemaras. These are Gemaras. So I'm not just giving you a Hasidic Shemaisa or some Baba is giving you an eitzah. I'm giving you eitzes from the Gemara. There's a pasuk in Micha. We say it in Tashlich. Noisei avon ve'over al pesha. Kadosh Baruch Hu is noisei avon. He is noisei, lifts up the avon, and he's over on pesha. Avon is our bad, our things done b'mezid, our averos which are done b'mezid, intentionally. But over al pesha, pesha is a type of rebelliousness. You do an avera pesha is worse. Pesha is worse than just stam b'mezid. You do it as a rebel. The Gemara says, "L'mi yoisei noisei avon." To who is a Kadosh Baruch Hu noisei? He carries, he lifts up the avon and doesn't let it come down on the person. Lemisha over al pesha, a person who overlooks. So we learn out of klal. Rava says, "Kol mavir al midoisav, mavirin al kol psha'ov." A person is mavir. It's a habit by him. This is something that he does. He's mavir al midoisov. What's mavir al midoisov? How many people? You always meet people that did you wrong, right? You meet people that did you wrong. You got a business partner who'd stab you in the back. You got this lousy neighbor. We won't talk about husbands and wives, what she did to me last night.
Not yet.
It's too early. It's too early. So, person's mavir al midoisov. People do bad to him. People, sat in his place in shul and created a ruckus. He's mavir. Oh, very. Rosh Hashanah, you bought a seat and you go Rosh Hashanah. There's a guy sitting there already. And so mavir al midoisov. He's mavir. What's mavir al midoisov? He passes it by. He's got midas. His midas are beginning to. It's kochsik, it's cooking inside, that's his meat. His midas are beginning to, he's beginning to fume, and, I'm going to let that guy have it, and, he's mavir. He goes past it. He's mavir al midoisov. He overlooks. You overlook what people did to you. What do? Mavir no kol pshov. So in Shemayim, they do the same thing. They're mavir on what? Which averis? Not just stam averis. This is a bechiddush. You have stam averis. Mavir and I'll call psha'ov. You did something. One day you're in a bad mood, and I can't take this Judaism anymore. This Yiddishkeit, or you're starving and you can't find anything good to eat, and I don't believe that Hashem wants me to starve, and you go into a store and you buy something, dafka,
Dafka is now we start. When you have two options.
Yeah, when you have two options, yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starving now. I'm getting
No, pesha is murdered.
But
Murdered is when you have an option.
And still he did it, right? He got tired of it. He just wants to chill out one night. I got to chill out one day. Goy for a day, yeah. Kol ha'mavir. I'm not saying to do this in order. A person does in order that then I'll fix it up later with this rule. It doesn't work. Yeah. So. Yeah. But kol ha'mavir al midos, a guy who overlooks, his habit is to overlook. Mavir no kol pshov. So they're mavir on all his pshoyim, his rebelliousness. And he brings a maisa. Rav Huna braided Rabbi Yeshua, cholash. He got ill. He got ill. He was on his deathbed. He was sick. So Rav Papa, famous Rav Papa, went to check out. He's one of the chabura from the Beis Medrash. He went to see l'shiur lebei. Chazi the kolish leit alma. He was a goner. He was going. Rav Papa says this guy is gone. So he said to the family, prepare the shrouds. He's not going to make it. Prepare the shrouds. Comes back, doesn't hear anything. Comes back a few days later, he didn't hear anything. And he's sitting up in bed. He got over it. So Papa was embarrassed. He just told the family to prepare the shrouds, and the guy, he pulled out of it. So he saw him. He was embarrassed. So he asked Rav Huna, says, "What happened upstairs? What'd you see going on upstairs? You were upstairs, right?" He says, "Yeah." So what'd you see going on? He says, Enechanami. I went in front of the Bezin Shel Maila, and the Dan me Lamisa. It was time for me to go. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu said, no. Since he doesn't stand on his principle, he doesn't stand on his principles, it's the principle that matter. He didn't stand on his principles, he didn't stand on his midos. Lo sakuba b'hadei. So don't be so medoctic with him. Take it easy. And they rejudged the case. He had an appeals case, and they let him go. Says the Ramchal. This is a din of mishpat. In other words, Rosh Hashanah is a day of mishpat. So if you do kol ha'mavir al midos mavir no kol psha'av, is mida keneged mida. That's the mishpat. In other words, how do they look at you? The way you look at people. If you're a takif, and you're always getting angry at people, and you're always out to, take advantage of people, and you're standing on your morals, it's the principle of the matter.
Put people in spots.
Right? So in Shemayim, said, that's the way you act with people, that's the way we're going to act with you. But if you're a person who's Maver al Midoisov, say it. You have midas. Maver al Midoisov doesn't mean that he's an easygoing guy. If a Kodesh Baruch Hu gave you an easy nature, you don't get off easy. I mean, it's according to what your nature is. We're talking about a person, he's got it within him. He could stand on his principles. He knows enough to stand on his principles. It's in his nature. He's born that way. He's born with with a redhead. He's ready to chop off heads when somebody goes against him, and he holds back. And he's Mavir Mivdoisov, and he smiles. And Mavir means he walks past it. When somebody does something to him, walks right past it. He makes as if nothing happened. So that's the way you act with people. That's the way you act with people. That's the way we're going to dime you. This is a great Eitzah. And this is what the Ramchal brings down. The Ramchal brings this down that you want to prepare yourself for Rosh Hashanah. Beidam l'chavero. Be maver al midoisov. Don't stand on your principles. With your business partners, the people in business, or the people in the street, people in the bank, people in the grocery. Don't stand on your principles. Whoever it is. Be maver al midoisov. and they will overlook you when you get on Rosh Hashanah, when they get to us. There's a problem. The Gemara says that if you look at the end of the pasuk says, Noisi avon ve'over al pesha l'sheres nachlosai. What does that mean, l'sheres nachlosai? So it says this is alya b'koitzbo. This is like a geschmack, a fatty piece of meat, and inside there's a thorn. You're gonna bite it and get stuck. It's not so easy to mekayim this. Sheres nachlosai. Not to everybody. Not everybody can do this. Not everybody can do this. To who is he mesim? It's lemisha mesim atzmo keshirayim. You have to have humility. Make yourself into a nobody. Don't be a person like, and I'm so important. Oh, you know why I'm overlooking? Because it's beneath me to worry about these little things. You have people like that. It's beneath me. I'm a dignified person, so I'm not going to let this bother me. No. You're maver al midaisa because you know that I have nothing. I have nothing. I have humility. I am a humble person. And therefore, I'm humble. And I am maver al midaisa. That, and how many people can say that? How many people can say that? That's what the Gemara says. So it's not so easy. So let's go back to.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is it only if somebody does to you something wrong, and that's mavi amida because you want to react to that? It could be the other thing as well. You have a midat and kum sheva atasay to not do something. You're lazy, whatever. You don't want to, whatever. Now you mavi amida so that you put in the extra effort to go and do the avoda, and that could also be mavi amida. So.
Well, I don't know if it'll fit into this pasuk. Mavir no kop shov. It's definitely a very good thing. Working on yourself. Rav Vigdor Miller, that's his whole avodas Hashem, is working on yourself, working against your midos. This is Rav Yosef Salanta, working on everybody. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave everybody different types of media. Some people are hot, some people are cold. So a person who's cold and doesn't do anything, so he never did anything wrong.
So a person who's very sheepish, they don't have this opportunity because anyway they're not gonna, it's not a good thing.
He's got Kadosh Baruch Hu gave everybody the midos that he needs. So he's got other things he's got to work on. He's got to work on his self-image and on his bitachon atzmi, on his self-esteem. Is it his natural nature or is it a lack of self-esteem? Avram Twersky says the biggest machla, psychological illness that we have today is lack of self-esteem. Now, lack of self-esteem is not humility. It's a person feels like a shmata, so lets everybody walk all over him. Like I saw a cartoon, like, you got this big fat guy in the middle of the street lying there. It says, I had a lack of self-esteem, so I started to make myself, so I got a job as a speed bump. Everybody runs over me. So.
How much do they pay for that?
Humility is not lack of self-esteem. Humility is, I know who I am. I know who I am, but I'm a nobody, because it's all a gift. Everything Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me, it's a gift. So it's not me. What do I have to be proud of? I have nothing to be proud of. I'm proud because I'm an Eved Hashem, and I'm using, this is the Kalim. These are the Kalim that the Ramchal talks about. Every year, Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to decide what Kalim. Are you going to have the same smarts, the same midos, the same talents that you had last year? People lose their talents. People lose their talents. It doesn't go, why? That was donned on Rosh Hashanah, that you were misusing them maybe. Yeah. But there's another thing. And there's another school, and it's going to fit into what we talked about. Elul is ani l'doidi v'doidi li. How does that work? So I heard from Chaim Wallerstein Zatzal, and he says this is a fantastic school. And he says it's in Kabbalah. I couldn't find it in Kabbalah, as knowledgeable as I am in Kabbalah. I think this is...
That's not something someone who does know a lot of Kabbalah would say, though. You know.
I cannot tell a lie. I have to. It says we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Twice. Right before Musaf and then during Musaf, we blow the shofar twice. Why do we blow the shofar twice? Is to confuse the Satan. Ma'arve v'esa Satan. So everybody asks the kasha, how does it confuse the Satan? I mean, so there's questions and answers galore on this, and I won't go into everybody, but how does it confuse? Satan's been doing this for 2,000 years. I mean, since Matan Torah, 3,000 years. He knows that we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Why every year he gets confused? Why, he forgot the calendar. He didn't look on the calendar. I mean, he knows. How does it ma'arvev the Satan?
He's there.
The skula of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, the skula of the shofar. Why did Kodesh Baruch Hu? Kodesh Baruch Hu created this whole din of Rosh Hashanah, the day of Rosh Hashanah, and it's a day of din. Because Kodesh Baruch Hu needs us. If you're not afraid, you're not going to follow the law. We know that from traffic lights. If it's late at night and there's no cop watching, and you're going to go through the traffic light. Same thing by Yiddishkeit. Same thing by Yiddishkeit. If you're not afraid that they got the security camera watching you, in Shemayim, the satellites, you're not going to keep the Yiddishkeit. That's the way the manir, you have to have yira, you have to have ava, you have to have yira. Otherwise, it doesn't get started. So Kodesh Baruch Hu created all the dinim of this yira. It's a day of fear. Unisana Taikif. Kedushas Hayom. But the Kodesh Baruch Hu loves us. Klal Yisrael, he's got a special place in his heart for Klal Yisrael. He doesn't want Midas Hadin to wipe us out. So he gave us a skula of blowing the shofar. And somehow or other, whatever it is, but the shofar has a midah within it, a force, a power to change Midas Hadin and soften it to Midas Harachamim. Kodesh Baruch Hu, when he hears the shofar, he gets off his seat. That's what it says in the Zohar. He gets off his seat of din. He's not sitting as in judgment. And he goes to a different seat of Rachamim. Now, when you have a din in front of a judge who's kindly to you, who knows you, it's a different din. So Zachariah Wallerstein gave a mashal. He says, there are certain people, they can get through the din of Rosh Hashanah. How do they get through the din of Rosh Hashanah? Imagine the court set up. You got the defending Malachim on one side, on the right side, and you got the accusing Malachim, the black Malachim on the left side, and in walks, right, and everybody's shivering. And here is, Moshe ben Sora is sitting there, he's shivering, like, his whole life is in front of him. And the Sutton walks in, he doesn't have a tick, he doesn't have a file. He's got a file cabinet of 365 days of, 24 hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds. He's got a file cabinet of everything that he schleps in. And the Sutton sees, so the judge, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, so Sutton asks, who's the case against? Moshe ben Sora. Moshe ben Sora. He looks at the judge. No. I'm not doing it. What do you mean you're not doing it? All the malachim said, what are you talking about? All the accusing malachim. He's got a whole crew of a staff of black malachim. And what do you mean? You prepared a whole file cabinet on the guy. I'm not doing it. Why? He's so perfect. He's such a good guy. He's not perfect. Not by a long shot. I am not prosecuting this case. Case dismissed. And the guy gets off. What happened? there was a king. The king had a queen. And they loved each other very much. The king loved the queen, and the queen loved the king. It was a wonderful match. It was wonderful. But the big problem, the queen did something wrong. She blew it. She blew it. She committed a crime. No, worse than
Don't put the troll on. Don't put the troll on.
worse. She did a crime. And this crime, so they said, you got to hang her. It was such a serious crime, you got to hang her. So so they went to the to the federal prosecutor, the big lawyer, the lawyer who takes all these cases, and they said, we have a problem with the queen. Yes, okay. And we have witnesses. Okay. And it's all been videotaped. Okay. What'd she do? Okay. And we want you to prosecute her. Me? You want me? You want me to prosecute this case? I'm going to tell the king to hang the queen? Are you out of your cotton picking mind? No, I'm not taking this case. If I take this case, the king is going to chop my head off. He's going to take all my kids, all my grandchildren, my wife, and what remains of me, put us into the house, burn the house down with us in it. No, I'm not taking the case. Find somebody else. They go from lawyer to lawyer. Nobody wants to take the case. No, you're not going to go in front of the king and ask to have the queen hanged. What's the second mashal? The king had a son. And the son was a wise guy, as we know many, teenagers are, they're wise guys. And he committed a terrible crime. Same thing. Committed a terrible crime. And there was the person in charge of disciplining the son, the prince, and they go to him, says, I'm going to go in front of the king and tell him to punish his, not me. Not me. I'll give you a mashal. You're sitting in shul, right, with your kid, and during davening, Shabbos and Shabbos morning, and your kid's gabbing away. He's bothering everybody. He's gabbing. He's talking and everything and he's not sitting still. So finally, somebody got fed up. The guy sitting right behind you get fed up, and he goes over to the kid and he slaps him in the face. Don't you lay a hand on my kid. But the kid's talking. You don't lay a hand on my kid. You do that one more time, you're going to have a hand to lay on anybody. And and when you get out of shul, my wife is in the Ezra Nashim, she sees what's going on, she's going to make mincemeat out of you. You don't touch my kid. Next Shabbos. Father sitting in shul. Kids talking and gabbing away. The father looks at him, smack! He whacks him one, right? Says, what'd you do? Last week, the guy who whacked me, you beat him up. Now you whack me? He says, I'm your father. I can whack you. He's not your father. He can't whack you. Keep your mouth shut. Ani l'dodi v'doidi li is a fantastic eitzah. Develop a relationship. We only got 10 days left. Develop a relationship with Ribono Shel Olam. Make him your dode. Make him your lover. I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Think about it with gratitude. All the different things that he did for you this past year. And thank him for it. Look back at the past year. How many times he got you out of hock? How many times he saved you? How many times you were trying to figure out how to make a good deal? And you happened to meet the guy in the bank by mistake or at a wedding. It happened to be just the right guy and he had the right contact. Everything just happened. Everything just happened in the right way. And you just missed that accident, right? You swerved off the road in the cars. you could have had an accident and it just went by you. Oh, close call. And you were worried about how you're going to pay the mashkanta, right? And all of a sudden, a check walks in. Just the day you have to pay the mashkanta, and you run to the bank, you're able to pay the mashkanta. Just happened. Thank you, Kodesh Baruch Hu. Have gratitude. He's your lover. He's taking care of you. Kodesh Baruch Hu loves you. Now, if you have a person like that, and he's the judge, ani l'doide v'doide li, and the Satan walks in, and they blow the shofar, and he's sitting there with midas harachamim because of the shofar blast. The Satan's going to walk in, and he's going to get confused. The shofar is ma'arvev the Satan. It confuses the Satan because he can't open his mouth to the one that a Kodesh Baruch Hu loves. So that's the Eitzah. Work on ani l'doide v'doide li the next 10 days. Gratitude. Gratitude and more gratitude. And Be'ez Hashem, that the Shana Habo Aleinu l'toiva, teichasvu, teichasmu, l'chayim toivim, v'tichtavu, b'sifrei sadikim, Gemurah.